was cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring.
Croeso and welcome to Tales of Wales, the pod that never fails to branch off into new realms and to twist and weave the boundaries of history and magic. And as ever, the mythic beast from the South Walian East, the man who can make stories about simply queuing for a beer sound like Arthurian legends. Sir Cadgy, a knight with a round table.
That's a very, what's the word? Generous. Yeah, generous, kind intro right there. I also love how you changed your tune as well. Usually when I tell those stories, you're like, oh, here's another one. another bit of patter about waiting in a queue for a can. Yeah.
I was being slightly mean. Well, not mean, taking the Michael. I was also trying to think of a comparison to say you're the Clive Owen to my... trying to think of someone else who's played King Arthur, because Clive Owen was the King Arthur when we were growing up in that King Arthur film.
What's his name?
Lancelot is Johan Griffith. I
was going to say the guy from Monty Python who did it in Holy Grail. I can't think of it. He's the one I don't know. I can never think of his name.
Yeah. Well, also, who's that like Cockney? Who's the guy in Sexy Beast?
Which one now? Oh, Ray Winston.
Yeah, Ray Winston plays like the boss. You should say I'm the Clive Owen to my Ray Winston, because I'm Ray Winston and you are a bit Clive Owen.
Such a bores, yeah, absolutely. You know what I love about that film is that like they give everyone. I think we should actually. I watched it not long ago and was bitterly disappointed, right? But I really need the beers I had, but I needed like company, because I think the company could really rip it. But the I love how in it everyone's got like this specialism, right? It's got an actual stacked cast. It's got fucking Mads Mikkelsen in it as like a secondary character. Keira Knightley, Joel Edgerton, Johan Griffith, fucking heart of Wales himself, and but like everyone's got their own sort of shtick, you know? Because like there's a guy as well. What's his name? Ray Stevenson. He's dead now. God rest his soul. He's like he's the really big, brutal unit, and he's got a big axe, I think, right? Yeah. And then like Mads Mikkelsen is like he's got like a Saracen blade, you know. He's got like a scimitar type thing. Joel Edgerton's like amazing with a bow and arrow, and they've all got their
Joel
thing.
Edgerton's
all this.
In it?
Yeah, Joel Edgerton's like the
How old is he?
archer.
He came out in like 2004.
Yeah, it's one of his. It must be one of his earliest roles that he's in.
Shit.
And then, so everyone's got the thing. And guess what they've given Bors? Ray Winston, who's by far the tubbiest character in it, right? They've given him like, these tiny quick like dagger knives, like assassin knives. And it was like, they're meant to be for like quick, nimble fighters.
Well, do you remember the PlayStation 2 game was fucking amazing of it, or the Xbox game it was?
They literally based it off the old Lord of the Rings games, didn't they? Yeah. It was the exact same mechanics. It was
we played the first round. Me and my mate played the first round, and you were on a horse, and the horse was like unmanageable. And me and my mate were like, "This is fucking shit." And then we changed it to when you get past the first mission, you then like play it like the Lord of the Rings game. And I was like, "This is the best fucking game in the world." It's like
exactly the same. I'm pretty sure they like. They give one of the characters two swords to be like Legolas for the mechanics from the original game. Yeah.
Also, you might hear
they have to have made it horses as well in that first level, because in the film they're like the fabled horse lords, and then they're never on their horses like in the entire film.
It's far too expensive for the rest of the film. I've had 2 tins of beans today, and it is playing Jimmy Havoc on my tum-tum. So if you hear the occasional ripper.
You've packed in the tins, the alcohol tins, and I've gone Zwei bean tins.
I need some sort of beanie. Yeah, well, I'm off the booze tonight. Only because tomorrow we're going to a Wines and Crimes evening.
Oh, I know.
With our wives.
I should have had a break tonight. I really should have. I've been on it, I say on it, I've had a drink for the last 5 days. Not anything mad.
I mean, that is quite mad.
Friday was tame. Saturday, I did have a lot of drink, to be fair. Sunday, we went to the pub.
What did you do Saturday? It was an old... You and your wife had
a Saturday, me and my wife just sat in the garden and got fucked up. It was great. And then Sunday we went out with the gang, didn't we, for a Sunday lunch, which was lush.
And only me and you were keen for like proper Sunday beers, which was a bit.
As I said at the time, I was like, we used to be a gang of warriors. What's going on now? We're getting too old, too long in the tooth. But like, I only had a few there, so we had a few with you guys. I think we had 3 maybe.
Three, but I'm glad we stopped there because they were glorious pints, and like we were in a beautiful beer garden, but we all had to like, we weren't on the sesh. So like, if you have 4, you then.
As usual, I came home and do me then. I had a few more, but I didn't. What are you going to do? Arrest me? It wasn't mad. I had like 3 more maybe. So like a total of, what's that? 3 pints, 3 cans. That's nothing really.
What's that amongst friends?
That's barely even counts. And then Monday then, right? So my sister-in-law's had her baby, so I got a new nephew now, old Jacob Amidi, a Welsh Lebanese mix, an absolute hybrid, a potent mix.
That is a hell of a combo.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I just can smell a freedom fighter in that. I was going to
say
that is going to be some
if
kind
he was
of
a race
rebel
horse, he'd be a Kentucky Derby winner, wouldn't he?
A Kentucky.
He's a Kentucky.
I got myself a Kentucky race horse.
Absolutely. I was trying to introduce him with some like esteem, and I've absolutely shat all over. Kentucky's a Kentucky horse, he is. But no, so that was like celebratory then. So my in-laws came over yesterday. And we had some champagne, and I, of course, because I can't fucking help myself, I had a couple more drinks after that. Again, not a mental one. Was in bed by fucking like 8:30 or something like that. Like very, very tame. But and then today I'm back on it for a couple more for this. But it's just when your body's like, come on, just give me a fucking break now. Like, let me recover a little bit.
I'm being good in the week, so like I'm having nice weekends, but I'm like being pretty strict and just having high protein, low fat. And a hell of a lot of beans, and it's
maxing your bean intake. Your macros with your beans are huge.
And also because we're going out tomorrow for booze, I'm limiting my calories today and on Thursday, so I can have a lot tomorrow.
This is what I was thinking. Like, I was like, another night, and then it was like tomorrow. Oh, now we're on the fucking wine tomorrow. We're going to that. Keen listeners will have heard. We're going to the wine and crimes gals night thing tomorrow. So yeah,
it's what's it, tarts and something.
Tarts it's like and streetwalkers or something, is it?
And we're taking our wives, which will be quite fun, so they get to experience some.
Are you the same as me, where I think we deserve like a pat on the back for thinking of that?
Yeah, I think as we are actually taking our wives.
Originally, it was definitely in my mind. It was just me and you glugging some plonk at the end of a table, being nuisances.
Well, because like my brain is so like stupidly male. I'm like, well, it's wine. I got to bring my wife. So I can. Of course, it's like that just reeks of that's a wife experience.
But like when I said to me, I just remember saying to you, "Oh, we're doing." We got invited to this wine and crimes thing. Do you want to go? Oh yeah, go on then. I was like, brownie points right there. like just for thinking of it, like a normal person, the absolute bare minimum.
But I'm keen for. I think it's like 4 glasses of wine, which I was trying to think. Like, all right, so with that, I want to have beer whilst I have the wine.
Oh yeah, we're going to do the old side beer routine. I'm assuming,
but then that'll completely take away from the point of like they put time and effort into pairing these like nice wines. So I'm thinking,
it's wasted on us anyway.
Yeah, maybe. Are we going to go for drinks after? I won't be able to go for drinks before, just because. Oh, this is a chat for off.
It's quite early though, isn't it? Yeah. No. Maybe we probably will when wine will go straight to our heads, so we'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. So.
Sorry, before we go on, there's something I keep meaning to say. I constantly forget. I text you about this the night it happened.
Not like us.
I know. I need to do a shout out to a guy named Grey Dog and his brother Liam. Right, these guys, I bumped into them in Cardiff. I think I texted you about it. I sent you a little pic of me looking absolutely howling next to him. And basically, they recognised my voice from when I said, "You can't be a Sunday sesh." And then, so we were out with our friends from Newport. This guy came over, said hello to one of the guy from Newport that we were with. He was talking about we were chatting, and it was the bank holiday. And I said the classic "can't be a Sunday sesh." That was that conversation done.
The catchphrase I'm always saying.
You know what I'm saying. Yeah, you've heard me say it a million times. But basically on our way out, we were saying bye, and the guy said, this is a mad question. He said, but do you do the Tales for Wales podcast? And I was like, I do the Tales for Wales podcast. And he said, I knew I recognised your voice. He said, it's when you said the thing about the Sunday sesh. And I was like, oh, the catchphrase. You're coming back to the catchphrase, is it?
It's a real sizzle reel, if you will.
But honestly, I had Wyn or Gleasty Gleast, right? As we say in Welsh. What was that? A smile from ear to ear.
Smile from ear to ear.
Because I was like, oh, I'm fucking famous. I'm big time now.
The world's most famous man. I'm
honestly,
Brent Turvell.
The place we walked into, I was like, do I have to pay for this entry now? Come on, do you know who I am?
Listen, guys, come on, I'll be here all night. Don't rush all at once.
Does this change your mind? Nothing like a Sunday sesh, am I right? So yeah, I didn't even shout out to them. I keep forgetting. Sorry, Grey Dog. Sorry, your brother Liam.
Yeah. Sorry, your brother Liam. That's such a funny way of saying it. Sorry, your brother Liam. I'm doing it
verbatim from my notes because I said Grey Dog and brother Liam. He might not be his brother. He's a man of the cloth. He's his priest. He brought him out after communion. It was a Sunday as well. It makes sense.
Grey Dog, brother Liam. You can join me for an open mass.
Oh, my friends call me Grey Dog. This is brother Liam. He's
was he in a cassock?
Yeah. I was going to say, now I think about it, he had one of those huge hats that the bishops wear. You know?
And he was collecting all his gold just as he was leaving.
He wasn't he wasn't imbibing of the beer either.
The only bishop I ever picture is the one from Robin Hood when he gets all of his gold and thrown out of the window.
Yeah. You can
pay for your way to hell!
On your way to hell! Yeah.
That's good. We need a night together watching films, I reckon, mate.
Mate, we got a horror one coming up, haven't we? But we need like a proper. We need. Oh no! Don't tell me the dream's dead.
The dream might be dead for that. I'll speak to you after. No, I'm meant to be in London. I'm meant to be in work, so I'll. All right,
we'll re-pencil in something else.
Yeah. Maybe just the day before or something. Well, we'll catch up in a minute. It's not like it's mad how often we speak, and it's like we're catching up like old friends who've not seen each other in 20 years. I saw you 2 days ago.
Well, literally, for the listeners, on Sunday we went together, right? And there's a few of the boys and like the wives and everything like that we don't see all that often, right? Yeah. Guess who ended up sat next to each other on a table? Me and Franks. And I was thinking, we speak so much, we probably don't need this, but I'm happy with it.
And also, we're
getting on like house on fire as usual.
But we had mates. Oh, well, my godson sat next to us. Who does like me and Jack. I'd probably say the most out of all the other people. Because
you are an absolute Pied Piper with him, mate. He's he loves you. I muddle through it basically. I'm not very good with
when
kids
When I see him without you, he often says, "Where's Jack?" So he actually does ask after you.
Oh, so shucks. That's warm, my little cockles.
We got stuck into making up jokes for about actually an hour of having food.
Jokes is such the wrong word for what it was.
He's 4 years old, and whenever, or maybe just a little bit older now, but whenever he says something, so I think he's like 5, I don't know, but every time he said, "Oh, tell me a joke," and it has to be about a farm.
Yeah, so he sets always the boundaries, doesn't he? Because I tried telling a joke, and he said, "No, we're doing farm jokes."
No, we're doing farm jokes.
Right, okay, shit.
But the joke is always pretty harsh. It's like, why did the cow leave the field? Why? Because all the other cows hated it and had no friends who had to leave. And then he doesn't laugh. He just looks a bit sad.
That's the caliber of joke we're moving on to, yeah.
And he looks quite deflated after he said it. He's like, all right, now why did the pig leave the field?
I don't know why I talk to those lads. I always leave in a worse mood than when I started.
But then he had his first taste of being at a lads' round table within the beer garden, because when we finished food, we all went outside with our beers, and he sat by us, and he made everyone in a circle tell a joke, and then we'd like, it was like
basically slamming his dad, mate.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Just saying his dad shits himself, and that was going down pretty well.
That was the running theme. That was the through line through every single joke, and it was getting absolute great reactions from Oscar.
Well, I did say, I asked him, I said, "Oscar, tell me a secret about your dad." He says, "Well, every time he makes me breakfast, he has to go and have a poo afterwards," which is canon fodder for her. Right, should we start? Segue over?
Let's get it on with it. Yeah. You need do your classic segue.
All right, let's think of a segue here. Obviously. So, I don't know what we're doing today. What we're doing, it's about...
it's mythology.
The legends, yeah. Well, I would... well, from two living legends, me and Jack.
Oh, very good.
To some ancient legends. I don't think we're living legends, guys. I just think we're like humble folk, you know.
I don't know, mate. I mean, I was spotted in spoons that time. That's pretty legendary.
Woo. Yeah. We are the Welsh Anton Deck. Move on over, guys.
Can you imagine? I mean, I'd be all right with that title, I guess, but I wish it was higher somewhere on the totem pole.
But also... we would, if we ever did get famous, we'd only be recognised by people in spoons. We'd have to like always stay true to who we are.
They are our people.
They are our people. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yes. So there's your link.
There's my in. Thank you. Right. Yeah. Okay. So today's cherry-picked chwedl or legend is called Manawydan fab Llyr, or Manawydan the son of Llyr in English, and it's a direct sequel to the story Branwen ferch Llyr, or Branwen, daughter of Llyr. If you're wondering why Llyr's kids are so important that they need two Mabinogion stories about them, Llyr was a big-time deity to the Brythonic Celts. He was the god of the sea of their pantheon, if you can call it that. We did an episode on the Welsh Celtic gods, if you want to check that out as well. That's very good. If you've been listening to us for a while, you'll probably also realise that we have done the story of Branwen ferch Llyr. We've done that once before. I can't remember when. I think it was part of one of the mythology ones.
It was part of one of the other ones, wasn't it? And
yeah.
I think we've also then kind of come back to it. Because when we first did it, I don't think I understood the nuances of the standard on the goat and all that stuff. So we covered it a few times.
So that was... what's his name? Llyr Llawgyffes and Blodeuwedd, that is. The one with Branwen ferch Llyr is the one we talked about before. It's basically Branwen is sister of the King of Britain, called Bendigeidfran. She gets taken to Ireland by King Mythology, and so Bran the Blessed, or Bendigeidfran, he has to come and rescue her with a cohort of Welsh heroes. It's a whole big epic. It's one of the better stories, I'd say, of the Mabinogion. It's very good. So go listen to that one if you haven't. There's a few spoilers in this one for the first one, the prequel.
And to find them, just type in the word Mabinogion when you're on Spotify.
Yeah, you'll find
when you're on our page, you'll find them.
You'll find them easy enough. But yeah, so if you haven't listened to that, you might want to pause here, go back. Otherwise, there'll be spoilers in this one. There's pretty big spoilers actually, because it talks about right at the end. But yeah, if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. Come back to this one. Anyway, Manawydan fab Llyr. It picks up almost straight away after Branwen ferch Llyr. And this time we focus on the titular character of Manawydan, who is now rightful king of Britain after his brother Bendigeidfran died at the end of the last story. That was the spoiler I was on about. As well as his good mate Pryderi, we focus on him as well, who was the king of Dyfed at this time, and their respective wives as well, Rhiannon and Cigfa. So after honouring Bendigeidfran's last wish and burying his head in what would become London, facing France to ward off invasion, that happens at the end of the last story, by the way, and apparently it's to do with, I think we mentioned at that time, the whole reason he does that is to ward off invasion from France. And when London is built, essentially, so the tale goes, his skull was removed from the soil, and that's when it wasn't long after that the Normans came over.
The invasion.
The invasion. Just leave the skull in the ground, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so as I said, Manawydan, he's like kind of rightful king of Britain now. He's got his mate Pryderi with him, king of Dyfed, and then this also includes Rhiannon and Cigfa, two other characters as well. So yeah, after the skull is buried and everything, to ward off the invasion from across the water, Manawydan and Pryderi, they journey back to Dyfed for a well-earned rest. After all, in the last story, the Welsh heroes basically destroy all of Ireland, so they've earned like a bit of a rest and a few jars. When they returned, Pryderi was reunited with his wife, Cigfa, and they all began to settle down and enjoy a nice life of peace. Manawydan actually even married Pryderi's widowed mother, Rhiannon, goddess of the horses. Now, you assume this is quite a sly thing, don't you? Like, imagine your mate marrying your mum. But when I was writing this, I was thinking, what if, like, you were my new stepdad? That'd be kind of
great.
class. That'd be really cool. Imagine every family event you're there. I'd be like
that would actually be class.
My mum would be the most
Julie's
pissed off.
lovely.
You know what? She deserves a nice bloke. I know you're a nice fella. You know?
Yeah, I treat her like a diamond.
Exactly, treat her like a diamond. And I mean, my mum might be a bit pissed off when at the family gatherings, me and you, just thick as thieves. But
or when your mum's giving me a bit of like hard work, I do that rock rolling the eyes face, you know, when that meme with the rock going, oh.
I'd be all over that as well. Like you do
I look over at you, I do the...
What's she like?
I do the hand, the hand mouth. You know, when your hand claps like a little mouth, going yap.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, am I right?
The amount of things you'd be like, oh, you know what she's like, oh, don't I? Yeah. So I think that'd be quite good. So obviously Manawydan and Pryderi, they obviously such good mates. They're like, this is a band setup. This is great. Yeah. So anyway, dream family setups aside, life was good for our two couples for a while. In Dyfed, chilling out in Dyfed, until one night when all four were feasting together, a crack of thunder shook the very ground, and a dark mist descended across the land. By morning, the mist had lifted, but the two heroes and their wives noticed that every domesticated animal, person, and building had disappeared, leaving them as the only four people in the land of Cymru. This didn't shake them as much as you'd imagine it would, right? Or it should.
Pretty calm.
As with a lot
also,
of Welsh...
for context, though, like magical stuff is happening quite a lot in the Mabinogion. So
you have to take that into account because if you read the Mabinogion, you realise that, like, I remember reading a passage one time and it was like someone sees like a herd of unicorns like coming over a crest of a hill. They don't even bother looking. That's not even worth noticing to them. That's how so they're in a world of magic at the moment, you know. So although that is worrisome, the fact that they're not like losing their heads,
it's like when we lose power. It's like we've lost power. It'll probably come back.
Something will
it's
sort
like
it
when
out.
you have a power age. Yeah. The grid will get onto that, I'm sure.
And you got to remember as well, these people like Rhiannon is the goddess of horses. Manawydan, he was the son of the god of the sea and things like this, you know. So they're kind of au fait with like magical shit going on.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, they realised that the only four people in Cymru now in Wales, because this mist has taken not just every person, I don't know why so specifically, every domesticated animal, right? So farm animals, dogs, all that sort of stuff, they're gone, but wild animals are still there. And also every building, which is a pain in the ass. But anyway, Manawydan...
Do you know what my theory is for that?
Go on.
Because the wild animals are like not been controlled or like man-built, so the animals have been curtailed by humans.
They're part of nature still, aren't they? Yeah,
they're
wild
still
ones.
part of nature. Yeah. Wow,
you might be onto something there. Got some subtext, mate. I like it.
Yeah.
So
that's what I've been trying to do when I read the Mabinogion stuff. Is not because when I first read it, I was like, "This is mental. Why is this?" But you realise that it's meant to be more like storytelling, isn't it? So like, you don't read it as gospel. You read it as like, how would that work?
And you got to think of it as like also the culture when these things were written. We're so far removed from ours now. You kind of can't look at it in the same way you read like a novel now. You know.
I read like this really good modern version of the Mabinogion where when the first time I read the one about Blodeuwedd and them having to stand on the one foot in the bath and one on a go, when you read that just verbatim, you're like, well, this is stupid. But then when you have it story told to you, it's like, you could have said then, for some reason the animals, you know, if you can add narrative to it, and I think that's what you do with the Mabinogion, isn't it? You make it into a story.
I think it's all part of like the fact they were an oral culture as well, you know, so you had to be a bit of an orator to like tell these stories.
Yeah, you get like the gist written down on paper, then you orate the rest of it.
Exactly. So, as I said, these are the only four people now left in the land of Cymru. Manawydan and Pryderi, because they were very skilled hunters and warriors, they lived off the wild animals of the land for a time, ensuring to provide for their wives, even without the convenience of a shelter or like hunting dogs or anything like that to aid them. But the hardship of living off the land wore both couples down, and despite Pryderi's desire to stay in his kingdom and figure out the mystery of the mist, all four decided to try their luck across the border in the land of the Saeson, aka the English.
You know, times are tough then.
Times are tough. The four of them settled in a town and began to earn bed and board by making and selling trinkets and weapons. This setup would never last long, though, as Celts were the finest craftsmen in ancient Britain, and the jealous English would only tolerate the competition for so long before driving the two couples away. To avoid bloodshed, Manawydan, Pryderi, Rhiannon and Cigfa would always move village to village or town to town until the resentment of their superior skills grew infamous in the land of Lloegr, aka England, and the two pairs opted to journey back to their homeland of Dyfed, much to Pryderi's joy. I do think this was like you'll realise by the end of the story that going to England wasn't that important in the story, and I just like that they just went over England, and like thing is they're all fucking jealous of how cool we were and how good we were, so we just fucked them off. Yeah. I just love that. It's just get a dig in at the English. Why not? I imagine the time that these things were written, especially because these were written down way later than the original stories were created.
Yeah,
the resentment to the English at the time really probably went. We went over to the England and they were really shit and they were knobs to us. So stupid and they were really crap at crafts and we were really good. Anyway, whatever. Back to the story. So yeah, after the two couples, they get settled into a life of living off the land once again in Dyfed. Pryderi and Manawydan are out hunting one day when Pryderi glimpses a white boar foraging in the woods. Pryderi thinks this would be quite a prize kill, not to mention the bounty of meat on his bones, and so sets off to chase the beast with Manawydan hot on his heels. They both follow the boar until it runs into a clearing with a huge towering fort at the centre. This strikes them as odd, considering they haven't seen a building since the Night of the Mist, and Pryderi insists on investigating the fort against Manawydan's protests. Pryderi enters the fort and climbs the numerous sets of stairs, one after another, each one leading to another empty floor until he reaches the very top of the tower. There, the room once again is empty apart from an altar with a beautifully crafted golden bowl at its centre. Pulled in by an irresistible draw, Pryderi lifts the bowl to investigate, but finds his feet have melted to the stone floor, fusing him in place. The same thing happens to his hands, melding his fingers into the golden bowl. The Dyfedian king tries to scream out for his companion, but before he can, the same sticky fusing repeats itself across his lips, sealing his mouth silent, save for panicked, muffled groans. Manawydan waited until nightfall for his friend to return, calling out for him all the while. But as night descended and sensing some ill magic within the tower, he opted to fetch help instead of storming the fort alone. The first of his allies that he came across was his wife Rhiannon, who ran to the fort, terrified for her son after Manawydan told her the news. Chasing her, Manawydan saw as Rhiannon entered the gloomy fort, but before he could follow, the same dark mist that blighted the lands before appeared once again and shrouded the whole fort. When the mist lifted, the tower, along with Pryderi and Rhiannon, were gone. Cigfa weeps when Manawydan tells her what happened, and the two of them vow to find their partners and end the curse of the mist in Cymru. As time goes by, both are no closer to finding the source of the mist, let alone how to revert the damage that's been done. Down one hunter, the two remaining Cymru attempt to cultivate the land and sow 3 fields of wheat to make gathering food easier. One morning, as Manawydan returns to check their fields, he finds that one of the fields has been ruined, making the crop completely useless. Thinking this is a flaw in his agricultural skills, he hopes for the best for the remaining 2 fields. The next morning, Manawydan and Cigfa return to their crops to see another field has been ruined. With one remaining and a suspicion of foul play looming, Manawydan hides in the nearby shrubs and waits all night to find the cause of his field's ill fortune. At the stroke of midnight, he sees a small army of mice attacking and ruining the remaining field, led by a much larger mouse, squeaking as if issuing commands to its smaller comrades. Using his godly quickness, Manawydan snatches up the leader mouse in a flash, holding him by the thick of its tail. The large rodent chirping panic squeaks. Manawydan hangs the leader mouse on a tree branch from his own tail and shouts into the night, declaring his intention to slit the creature's throat by the next day. When the sun rises the next morning, Manawydan and Cigfa, camped beneath their captured rodent foe, are greeted by a scholar. Confused at seeing another person in Wales, the scholar explains that he's travelled from a far out land and that he will exchange a precious collection of books in exchange for the leader mouse. Manawydan refuses outright and sends the scholar away. Hours go by before the camp is approached again, this time by a priest. He too says he is from a far off land and offers beautifully crafted holy relics in exchange for the large mouse. Once again,
Brother Lee?
Sorry?
Was it Brother Lee?
Brother... Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry. Brother Liam.
He's arrived. Yeah.
Brother Liam's come back again. He's made his... He was an apparition from ancient Celtic Wales. And this is Brother Lee. We've come for an intervention. You need to stop drinking 5 days in a row. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, this where was I? So the priest, he offers him holy relics, finely crafted holy relics in exchange for the large mouse. Once again, Manawydan refuses, sends the priest away. A third man approaches in the evening, this time a bishop. The bishop is once again from a far-off land and offers a chest of blessed gold for the mouse's life. Manawydan refuses again, but this time his visitor asks him, what would it take for him to hand over his prisoner? Manawydan responds that the only thing he'll exchange for the life of his captured enemy is for Pryderi and Rhiannon to be returned to them, along with everyone and everything the cursed mist took from the land. The jig is up, and the bishop, with a flicker of his hand and a shimmer of magic, transforms into a flamboyantly dressed enchanter. The magician agrees to Manawydan's terms, explaining that the mouse he captured is in fact his wife, and that a dark wizard, Llwyd ap Cilcoed, cursed her into the form of a mouse, promising to return her to her natural form if the enchanter unleashed the wicked mist on the land of Cymru, as a revenge for his lord's humiliation at the hands of Rhiannon and her late husband Pwyll. I'll touch on that later about what happened in the previous story. Once the enchanter had conjured the mist, Llwyd went back on the agreement, using the mouse wife as leverage to keep the land plagued by the destructive fog. The enchanter, rathering his wife alive as a mouse than dead, reverses the curse of the fog, returning all the Welsh to the land, along with its buildings and domesticated animals, Pryderi and Rhiannon included. Gladdened by the return of his wife, his friend and country, Manawydan vows to help the enchanter reverse the curse laid upon his wife and bring Llwyd ap Cilcoed to the swift justice of his sword. And that's it for Manawydan Fab Llyr, basically. I did take some liberties with that storytelling, by the way, just to make it a little bit more...
You always... Yeah, I think we did that with the last series we did. Yeah. We said we'd start.
We all say that we do. Basically, that's what everyone did. This version of the story you're hearing is probably so different from the original story because everyone adds their own little flair to it. Basically.
Do you remember the one I did about the
1,000 cuts, wasn't it?
Yeah, Pwyll's story. I read when I was reading about the Mabinogion, it says these are stories to evolve.
Yeah.
So you're meant to kind of add your own little tale as it goes along. That's what these.
Pwyll is another big character in the Mabinogion, and like I said, so this Llwyd ap Cilcoed, he works for I can't remember his name now. His name's like Gwawr or something. Basically, in another story, Pwyll and Rhiannon, because Pwyll is Rhiannon's ex-husband or widowed husband. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Basically, they I won't go into it totally because it's quite a good story. Might do it another time. But they just massively humiliate him in a previous story. So that's why he's sent this evil wizard after them to fuck over their land and everything. But yeah, I thought that was quite a good one.
Yeah, I really like that one. I think I remember reading that in the book because the illustration in the book that I read in the modern version one, you have all these mice all over the place for a while, and they it feels like a Roald Dahl style story.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did change it because I said that Manawydan threatened to slit the throat of the big mouse. He actually threatens to hang him, and I just had this very funny idea of tiny little gallows for mice that he'd built.
Also, that mist is that I think that's probably the inspiration for the Mabinogion game coming out. We had
exactly right. He mentioned that I think in the episode because I remember I was reading this one again. I don't know why he didn't draw the connection beforehand. I think he mentioned it, and then I was like, "Oh shit, this is exactly what he's on about." It's this dodgy mist that
he has that as
everything.
some sort of it helps the character along, doesn't it? But
it's like a narrative tool, isn't it, to push you in the right direction? I think to make you further on the game or whatever. But yeah, check that episode out, listeners, if you haven't had that one because that's coming out. It's got to be soon, isn't it? I think.
It won't be too long till that's out. I think he said it's coming out in 2025. If everything's going along as it should do. So. When it does come out, though, I'm sure we'll put a plug on here. We'll let people know.
Yeah. Well, our level for being involved in guest initiatives now has gone way up, isn't it? Because since director Dan said we could be in a pub scene in his film, now I expect that on everything. I'm like, why aren't we a voice actor on that game? Why haven't you gotten us in?
Yeah. I was going to say to you then, I really like these Mabinogion ones, especially when we make them. I think when we first started doing them, we didn't try and tell them as a story. We tried to tell them as fact, which is not how it should be done.
Yeah,
I think it's much better when we rewrite it ourselves.
And once you sort of start looking into it enough, you realise that trying to tell it as fact is kind of like oxymoronic, and that there is no definitive version, because whatever version you heard, but basically back in the day, whether you were Celts or like sort of early medieval or whatever, before any of this started being written down, it would just be the version like your mum or dad told you. And it could be so different from someone else up north, or the main story beats are usually the same. But this different, even with this, like I think I found like 3 versions online that had differences, and I just sort of tweaked it myself a bit.
It's like remastering films or remaking a film, isn't it? You have the same beats of it, but you have different elements.
Yeah, same essence, and but you just add a little bit of your own poetic license, as they say. Like
the what's it called, Planet of the Apes stuff. Like that, that's been remade a bunch of times, and it's the same idea, but it's executed slightly differently. So I think we should keep doing these. I want to do one a series. So I know the listeners don't know when we start a new series, but on our admin we do know. So I've got another one this series, and then I think we should do one each every series, and then we'll cover a lot of the Mabinogion by the time we finish this.
Well, I bought that when we went to Chepstow. I bought that new Mabinogion book. Yeah. And I'm keen to go through that, and even if we recover some of the stuff we've covered before, I wouldn't mind just going through if it's worth doing again.
I agree. Yeah,
I think it'd be quite good.
We should do that with some of our early episodes anyway. Some of the ones where we didn't quite know what we were doing. I don't know if we do now, but we're more aligned with how the podcast. I think when we were finding our voice in the first the first 10
I think
episodes,
some of the season 1 episodes could 100% be redone, because there's such because we did a lot shit quality audio. We were very much finding our way on how to do podcasting,
what we wanted the pod to be like,
and unfortunately we did pick some it was like some of the big hitter historic events. So I feel like we're almost off limits now, but I think it's perfectly fine for us to dust them off and do them again.
I reckon. I'd definitely like to revisit some of them and retell them. So that'll get we'll do that. That was class. Diane, Dilham Grando. Oh, we always forget to ask, but do drop us a 5-star. It really helps. So if you do it right now, whilst I'm yapping, go to your podcast app and drop us 5-star.
Open it up right now and just do
you're literally listening, so please do. It does help us quite a lot in terms of getting reach. So, cheers, guys. Anyway,
we've been up to...
Like torches blazed with light.